Do. What is up, everybody? It is not Tuesday. It is Wednesday night. Off night for the Orion Podcast. But anyway,
Yeah.
I'm Chad Brock.
And I'm Zach Bailiff.
Here we go. What is up? What is up? What is up? Welcome back.
Yeah.
43, episode 43, Orion Podcast. We are stoked that you guys are here. We're going to pay a few bills here real quick. Kind of start talking about some of the happenings around and about. But anyway, first off, we got to thank Orion Coolers for making this podcast possible. Obviously, Jackson Kayak, jacksonkayak.com. Pick you up an Orion Cooler, pick you up a sweet kayak from one of our local dealers in your area. Big water, small water, river fishing, whatever you want, it is there at jacksonkayak.com. Grab yourself something up. Also, cool new accessories, so check those out. Basco fishing. We love some Basco fishing. Got some new swag coming out here this spring. Spring drop is coming from Basco swag. So get ready. Check them out. Then obviously casking. Can't go fishing without casking. You gotta have casking in there so we can even make a cast. So thanks to Casking, castking.com. Check them out. Z-Pro lithium batteries also. Keeping Chad and Zach casting all season long. We appreciate the heck out of them dudes. So yeah, paid some bills.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
Feels
right?
like it's been a minute since I've been here.
It does feel like it's been a minute. It has been a minute. You missed the last episode. I ran it solo, but you was out busy.
I was
hunting
playing.
things.
I was doing dad stuff that night.
Have I talked
Yeah.
to? I don't think you've been on the podcast since you was home from Thanksgiving.
No.
Yeah, that
Thanksgiving
was a
break.
missed connection.
Put some meat in the cooler, and
Put some meat in the cooler. Texted your buddy with the camera. Said, "Hey, he's down." And I was like, "Get this trail camera picture." So Zach sends me this trail camera picture, and it's this buck walking. He's like, "He's on the ground," and I'm like, "Cool." He's buck's on the ground, he's walking, so he's telling me that deer is out there because there's this trail camera photo. No, that's not what Zach meant.
No,
Zach meant,
that
hey, you should grab your camera and come help me. And
I just put an arrow through the top of his heart, and he is taking a dirt nap. So
eight
yeah,
eight
no, it
hours
was
later you get a text
that
back. It's
that
like,
yeah. He walked past that trail camera, and about 15 seconds later, had an arrow go through him. So
yeah, that was my bad. I misread that text message, and yeah, my bad. So I didn't get to take a picture.
my fingers were cold. I was keeping my text short. So
But something, because like the trail camera picture totally threw me off. I was like,
yeah,
not fishing. I was like, had the whole morning open. I'm like, hey, well, text me if you need me. And then it's like, yeah, he's on the ground. I'm like, oh, cool. There's a buck.
yeah,
He's walking across the trail camera. That's
yeah,
awesome. No, not
yeah.
what you meant. So I screwed
No,
that up. I
nah,
still apologize for that because I did screw that up.
it's all
I don't
good.
remember what I ended up doing that day.
I don't
It
know.
wasn't
I
what I was supposed to be.
drug him over to the base of the tree. I climbed back up there, hung out for a few more hours, hoping to stick a doe and fill that tag, and I didn't. But we got him in the cooler and got home, and he's now processing in the freezer. So
It's not a bad hunt. You're not off to a bad start for hunting season. You've got elk in the freezer, you
Yeah,
have the whitetail in the freezer, and one more tag
two.
left to fill.
Yeah, cow elk, 2 deer, and 1 tag left in my pocket. So hopefully we can
Yeah,
make that happen around Christmas time, and we'll be good to
you're
go
gonna be
for
well fed.
at least 8 or 9 months. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if we can just get you crappie fishing, maybe you would like expand your horizons just a little bit. Too much red meat, man. You need some crappie in there.
there's no such thing as too much red meat.
There's really not. There's really not. There might be for some folks, but for
No, yeah, no. We had elk sirloin tonight, so it was good.
hey, can't beat that.
No.
Cannot beat that at all. We got some folks dropping in. Some of the good people, the regulars. The regulars are here. Can't ask for more
Hmm.
than the regulars.
No, I
I mean,
I after our little teaser today, I would expect there to be a few more trickle in tonight, but we shall see.
well, I think if we keep procrastinating and stall, maybe they'll just like give up on us or something. You never know.
Yeah, they might think we were just teasing and just
Just,
leave.
I actually got a call to ask if I was serious. It's like, I mean, I can't put it out there and not be serious.
No,
Not
that'd
that
be a
guy.
mean. That'd be mean. No, we've honestly, this is one we've both had in the back of our mind for a long time, and schedules are tough, and we finally worked it out. So we're excited.
I'm gonna say it like the way it should be said, but like I'm probably gonna get like a royalty fee or a kickback from Mercer. But
Hold on. Hold
is there
on.
a fee? Do I have to pay
I
that?
don't know, but I wondered today. I was like, man, we need a soundbite of Mercer just screaming it. But no,
I meant
we
to do
talked
that.
about this. We talked about this last night too. But I've been following this guy since he blew the fist whistle on stage at his first classic.
Tundra Sweets
Yep, the Tundra Sweets days.
like has won almost everything that Bass has to offer. Came back, took a little break, went over, tried some different things, came back, won more stuff.
Yeah.
He is a he these we gotta ask him, buddy.
Can you guys hear me?
We can now.
Okay. If is it too loud? I can adjust
No,
the
you're
No, it's
sound.
good.
perfect. It's
Okay.
perfect,
Perfect.
dude.
Good deal.
So I guess like your intro kind of messed up the first question. Like, dude, do you still think like does Mercer need to change your intro? Do you still feel at this point in the game is prodigy still the right word?
I that question has been brought up. I'm gonna hold on to it because I feel like I'm still young enough.
Yeah.
I
There
was
you go.
talking to someone the other day about this that I'm in this weird in between zone where I've been doing it long enough that I'm almost like from a, I guess, competitive year standpoint,
Mhm.
legend, but I'm not old enough to feel like I should be in the legends category. I'm only 36. So like I'm in my mind, I'm still like 26.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So I feel
Yeah.
like
Okay.
I'm still on the young side of the spectrum, but I just happen to be a lot older than some of the guys coming in. And I've been doing it, I've been around longer than a lot of the guys on tour now. So I'm in this kind of weird zone, but I'm gonna hold on to the prodigy as long as possible, and possibly because I'm worried about what else may come out of his mouth. Like I don't know what the
That's a fair
alternative is.
that's
That's
a fair
fair.
concern.
That's
Yeah,
a fair concern. It's funny, when you listen to his podcast, like how he comes up with some of, what he does. It's amazing.
yeah.
Definitely a talented dude. But yeah, dude, you're kind of 36. So you and Zach are right there. I'm the old guy.
I'll be 36 in March, so not far behind you.
What superhero movie was it, Zach, where it's like you become you're around long enough that you become the villain. Like I've stayed around fishing long enough in my circle that I have become the old guy at 43. Like I can remember being in my 20s and like looking up to the old dudes at the ramp, and now it's like, dang it, I'm the old dude. It's kind of set in this year. It's kind of weird.
When did that happen?
This year.
Yeah.
No, I mean
I felt it for the
that's a
first
real
time
thing.
this year. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's weird. But
Well,
no,
welcome to the podcast, Brandon.
yeah,
Thank you.
it's a hot mess.
Like you said, we've been talking about this for a really long time.
It's been a while.
I don't know why I waited to actually make it happen once I had like a 3-week-old child.
Right.
You
Yeah.
think I would have been less busy before, but it actually just timing worked out where
Yeah.
this time of year it's kind of slower.
A little
But
slower.
home able to make it
Except
work.
for the newborn. Yeah.
Yeah, but 3 weeks old, they sleep most of the day.
Right. Right. Yeah. Kind of like a new puppy. They tend to sleep like 16 hours a day.
Yeah,
You haven't
exactly.
met my puppy. But so this is kind of funnels into the first question that I actually wanted to ask of you. But talking about the downtime and where you're at right now, when you come home from the Elite Series after a year on tour, you got you and Tiff and Kyle and the kids now are all away. How long and what is the process to kind of decompress from an entire season and kind of like, become present again at home?
For me, it's probably about a month. And thankfully, our season ends about the end of August, and archery elk season starts the first week of September.
So you just
And
disappear for a month.
yeah, and I have a very understanding wife that knows I need that time to decompress. Like I go to the mountains to decompress, and it's not that I want to get away from the fishing. I absolutely love it. I still fish while I'm at home. Like the weather was nice today. I was like, man, I really should have went fishing today. But it's just kind of, I guess, taking a step back when you go to the mountains. Cell phone usually doesn't work. I prefer to go to places where I don't have cell phone coverage, and you really are able to kind of process those things. You don't have all of the distractions coming at you from 360 different degrees. And I think for me, it's an important process, right? Getting out there, sweating, doing physical work, hiking up and down the mountain, hopefully packing meat out. And that whole process, it grounds me, I guess. And I'm able to, you get anyone that has been out there on the mountain on a nice sunny September day when it's about 75, 80 degrees, and you find a shady tree and you just kick back and take a nap. You may wake up 45 minutes later and feel like you slept for an 8-hour night in your bed at home. It's like some of the best sleep I get, and I wake up and I walk out of those mountains with so much clarity that that's a big part of that process. And then I feel like once I do that, I kind of feel whole again, and then I'm able to kind of be at home, and then take care of things at home. Because the reality is we spend more time away from home than we are home. So when we get here, there tends to be a lot of projects that need to be done. Like we've been in our house nearly 5 years now, and I'm still trying to finish the inside of my shop and get it dialed in.
You're almost there.
I made a lot of progress this year.
Yeah. No, it's looking good. It's looking
So-
good. But no, like you said, I mean, you spend 6, 7, 8 months on the road. You guys are going nonstop. You've got media. You and Kyle are always doing work, creating content. I'm sure you've got, interviews and everything else pulling all different directions. But then take off on a good hike, chase some elk, and everything else kind of falls away, and you just get a single focus and just kind of you can tunnel vision on elk for, you know, that length of time and just enjoying what's around you and where you are. And that's, you know, you described it really well. It's when we're out there, you just kind of look around most days and you're like, man, I cannot believe that I get to be here and do this and chase these animals, because the fact of the matter is very few people get to go do that.
Yeah, that's the reality of it, and thankful that I'm physically able to do it, and that I'm, have a quote unquote job that allows me to go out there, and I can go out there for a week if I want to. And there's always still some obligations that carry over through September, but I can generally manage those time wise to be able to get out there. And what I've noticed is you get toward the end of the year, and contract obligations and things start stacking up, and deliverables start stacking up, and you can feel a lot of the pressure, or at least I do, where you get it from a lot of different directions. And it's like when you go out there, like you said, everything kind of just falls to the wayside. But as soon as I get home, it seems like when all that pressure kind of lifts, everything lines back up. Yeah. And then I can see the path forward versus standing, at a crossroads where I don't know what direction to go here. I don't know what to do. I feel overwhelmed. And you get out there and it's like time slows down, and you're able to really like take a step forward, and you just start picking things apart. And then next thing you know, you're ahead of the game again. I can remember, I think it was like 3 years ago, I spent a lot of time in the mountains in September, more days than not. And then at the end of the month, I had to fly out for a show to go to a banquet. And when I got to the airport, I was looking around like, how do people live their lives like this? Like everyone was in a hurry. Everyone's just like cutting people off. And I've been out there just chasing elk around, listening to birds sing. And this is just not the way. It put it into perspective for me. I was like, this is not the way that I want to live my life. I love traveling. I love being around people and seeing things, but I have to have like that connection to the outdoors to survive, really.
Yeah, I usually get 9 days straight in September, and it's no joke. Like when we're done and when Evan drops me off the airport and I have to reintegrate into society, it takes me a minute.
Yeah.
It's just, I've had guys, people just like randomly start chatting and wanting to carry on a conversation in the airport. I'm like, I'm going to need a minute. I've not talked to anybody in 8.5 days.
Yep.
But
sometimes the quiet journey is the best journey, though. So when you're on tour and you know that this is ahead, so when you take care of yourself, you do a lot of running and different things, not only to keep yourself good for the grind of the tour, but when you're out there and you're running and it's been a long day of fishing, do you ever just kind of like take yourself out to the mountains and use that as the fuel to like keep you going when you're on your runs and working out and different things?
Yeah, I would say at times, like you just think about those, and especially the closer it gets to September, right? As soon as August 1st rolls around, I'm still in fishing mode, but there's definitely a shift in my brain of like, hey, you probably should make sure you're in enough shape that you can pack an elk out, or you can hike for 3 or 4 days straight. Because I'm usually in enough shape that I can go hunt really hard for one day, but it's being able to do it 2, 3, 4, 5 days in a row is where the preparation ahead of time really pays off. And I've just got to the point where I understand that going for a run or doing something, like generally just something that makes you sweat, some sort of physical activity, does so much mentally. Obviously it has its physical benefits, but the mental side of it for me is generally what I get the most out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's one thing I think a lot of folks, because the physical is so focused on, the physical benefits and attributes and everything like that, but the mental side and the stress management and the mental clarity and just being able to get out, work, sweat, and clear your mind just would help so many more people more than they realize.
Yep. Totally agree. And that's why even when it's not the most convenient, I try to do it. And I'm not the best. Like, I'm not disciplined as much as I should be on it, or as much as I'd like to be. But it's definitely times when you're just like, I'll feel kind of groggy or slow, and those are the hardest times to go. But I've never been on a run that I regretted.
Right.
It's like generally when I get done with it, I'm glad I did that. And it doesn't have to be far. Like when you're sitting on the couch, you're like, man, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I have a time to go for a run, but really I only need to go for 15 or 20 minutes. That is such a small portion of your day, but
Yeah.
it can seem so astronomical before you take that first step.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the real question, I think people at home they're gonna want to know who's faster, you or Kyle?
Kyle's faster for sure.
He's
He
got
has
longer legs. He's cheating.
Yeah, he runs way more than I do. The best is watching him and Carl Jochimson race.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
They talk a lot of smack to each other. And I don't know. I think Kyle's been beat twice. I think long distance, Kyle would probably get him, but in a sprint, Carl smokes him.
Talking about Carl and the hunting, to combine that conversation just a little bit.
Yeah.
How has that been to take him out to the mountains and kind of help mentor him through this journey that he's taken into hunting?
That's been awesome. People that don't know Carl Jochimson, he's from Australia and he fishes on the Bassmaster Elite series against me, with me, however you want to call it. We're competing against each other technically. And then we became friends like super early on before he ever made the elites. It was early on in my career. He ended up marrying my cousin, which I had nothing to do. They figured that out on their own, and which works out great for me because it's way easier to get one of my best friends up here because her family still lives up here. So
Right.
during the off season, we got elk hunting. Their family's here. Like, it's a no brainer for them to come up the same time we do. And it's been really awesome to have somebody that is really willing to go the distance. There's never like, I don't want to go over that mountain.
Right.
It's like there's a bull bugling over there, and then it's generally you look at each other like,
we're going.
We're going. Like there's not really ever a like, I don't know, that might be too far. I was like, let's go, and then we'll figure it out later.
Yeah.
And it's important to have guys, girls around you, whatever it may be, that have that same mentality when you go after it. And it's been awesome to have him in that, and then be able to see his growth and his successes. And one of his best friends from Australia came over this year, and me and our buddy Dan were pretty busy. We weren't able to go the whole time with them, and he came over for 3 weeks. And the big thing is that he had to do all the calling on his own, and he had to make the stalks on his own and the game plans. And he had this year and a ton of close calls, and didn't, end up shooting one during archery season. And he was supposed to leave at the end of September, and he ended up staying till the end of October so that he could hunt the 4 days of rifle season. And then he ended up filling his tag in rifle season with the biggest bull that he shot so far. So it's been cool to see that journey and kind of him grow through that. And just like there's a lot of clarity that comes personally. There's a lot of deep conversations that happen out there in the woods when you're out there with your buddies. Like there's a different connection that happens when you're out there versus like if you're just in your house, in your living room. I feel like there's a deeper connection with the people that you spend with out there.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Sure.
I mean, you're out there suffering together a lot of times, depending on what you're doing, you know.
Yeah.
We took a buddy of ours this year, and normally it's just Evan and I that go out, and we kind of, we know each other's limits and what we can take and how hard we need to push, and we've both got the, that same attitude of, if we hear a bull bugle 2 ridges over, it's not a question. It's all right. What time do you think we're going to get there? How fast can we hike it? But took a buddy of ours this year, and he had never really done an extended, backcountry hunt like we typically do. And we pushed him pretty hard, and we kind of took it easy on day 2 after we got in and set camp. And then day 3, we dropped 1,500 feet in elevation. I think we put the screws to him that night coming out, but it was a lot of that. He's in pain, and we're both being as positive, as encouraging as we can be, and pulling him up out of there. And nobody's dogging on each other seriously. We might razz each other a bit, but it like you said, it's a different connection when you're out there, because you're going through a lot of different emotions on an elk hunt. If you've never been on one, it is a roller coaster ride.
Yeah. And there's a lot of similarities that I see to the fishing side, right? Somewhat, when you have those times when you really have to dig deep, you kind of come to a type of crossroads, and you're like, I have to make a decision. You don't know which way to go. Like, should I run over and, fish that contour line, or should I go over this next ridge? I have a really bad habit of like curiosity, and it ends up making me walk a lot further than I should, or burn a lot more gas in my boat than I should. Because I'm always like, one more spot. Like maybe it's the next spot. Maybe it's the next spot. And there's that similarity there. But when you spend enough time in both areas, you start to gain that confidence in your decision-making process. You start to understand kind of the habits of each one. And I love that process, where it starts to click and it starts to make sense, and you're not second guessing like, like, should I do this or should I do that? When something happens, you're instantly like, that I need to go do this, or I need to make this move, or, like that bull's hung up at 50, 60 yards. Like I used to think all the time, but now I'm able to kind of run through like how that bull's reacting, what he sounds like, what the terrain's like. This is what we need to do. And it just takes time out there, and fishing's the same way. It's like, that a fish reacts to your bait, or conditions change, and it's like, okay, now we got muddy water and we got bright bluebird skies, and the fish are probably going to be sucked up tight to cover. And then there's a laydown. Okay, I'm going to pick up a spinner bait. Okay, water's dirty. It's going to be white and chartreuse. I'm going to do double Colorados. I'm fishing shallow. I'm going to go 3/8 ounce. There's like all of these little pieces of the puzzle that over time just become subconscious. I don't even think about it anymore. I just reach in the box and do that, or you move a certain way in the woods, and that process to me is the most fun. And I guess going back to the Carl conversation, I've been able to see him do that on both sides, on the fishing side and the hunting side, and we're able to connect on both of those. And when you connect with someone like that, it just makes it that much more exciting.
Oh yeah, for sure. And going through all that, it's kind of the wisdom versus knowledge conversation, right? Knowledge is knowing the facts and having all the information. Wisdom is, hey, I've been here before. I know what this situation looks like. Now let's put the pieces to the puzzle together and roll.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And I think even, just watching you on the Elite Series, I feel like I've seen an evolution in just your style. Like, I feel like now you're at the point where you pretty much just go out there and do all things well. Just kind of like your Santee tournament. I mean, you look back at that and it's like, you kind of won that in a different way than what we're accustomed to seeing, I think, when we're as viewers. How long has that evolution been in play? Do you feel like you're always learning new techniques, different strong points every year, or is it just something that's like, man, I'm just going to go for it and whatever happens, happens?
I think that's been happening my whole life. The funny thing is that on, the national level, I'm more known for drop shotting, finesse stuff, but really I grew up more power fishing,
Mhm.
flipping crankbaits, spinner baits, big swim baits, all those types of things. And so Santee Cooper really fit into my wheelhouse for that. Obviously we don't have cypress trees and swamps in Idaho, but that style of fishing, those techniques, I was very comfortable with. And so, but for me, that was a personal win, right? Because I've always wanted to win a tournament doing that. Like those are the techniques that I
Mhm.
love to do. I love power fishing, heavy line, heavy weights, and to be able to do that kind of a shallow water, dirty water tournament. That was obviously a win, but also a personal win on that level. And that was, I guess that's where you want to get to, right? Is where you feel comfortable no matter what situation you're throwing into, that you're able to figure it out. And one thing that I've always tried to keep in mind is like not forcing a bite to happen or having too many preconceived notions, and just being really fluid with what's happening in those situations, right? Like what is happening this week? A lake may be known for certain techniques or certain areas of the lake, but what's happening this week, and where's the best place to go catch them with these conditions? What's the best baits to catch them with in these conditions? And I feel like that's what's really helped me out to the point where I'm at now. And going into my 14th year now, which is crazy to think about, that you gain a lot of that confidence, right? Where you don't second guess a lot of those decisions. You're comfortable. I'm super comfortable with my equipment. I don't have to second guess any of my equipment. That helps. And then just really focusing on all the little changes and then making those adaptations.
Yeah.
So moving kind of into the fishing space a little bit. After you came back from vacation, we're going to call it into the Elite Series. Um, did you ever? I mean, a lot of people, when everybody went on vacation, they thought, "Hey, this is not as many of these guys." But are you, after coming back from vacation, are you impressed with how many of these guys have like really stepped up, some of the new faces that are out there, and just how tough the competition and how stacked it really is now?
I think top to bottom, the elites are tougher now than they've ever been. Just as a complete whole. If you were to take just like the best 20 or 30, it might be a wash, but from
Mhm.
top to bottom as a whole, I think the elites are tougher now, because a lot of the guys that are fishing there, we've been teaching how to steal our jobs for 20, 30 years, right? Like
Sure. Yeah.
a lot of people don't think about that. Like, the amount of
Yeah.
information that is out there now for free that anyone can go get. We're teaching people how to go catch fish, and we talk about it and how to run your electronics and use these baits in these situations. And there's so much information out there, and uh, a younger generation, which I'm still part of because I came into it with technology and a lot more of that than the guys before me. But there wasn't as much information when I was coming up.
Hmm.
When I decided 8 years old, I want to do this for a living, I really had Bassmaster magazine and the television show.
Yeah,
And the
YouTube wasn't
magazine
there
would
yet.
come out and I'd read about it and I'd try to duplicate it, or I'd see it on a TV show and I'd try to duplicate it. And now you can get it, whatever information you want on how to go catch a bass in any condition, just about anywhere possible in the world, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. And so we're educating all of the new guys coming up for much longer, right? They've had that source of information. And so I think that's just what's made the cut lines, the check lines, like all of that has just elevated. I think the top of that top level is probably about a wash, but I the only difference is that the guys fishing now just haven't had 20 or 30 years to build that name or to build that brand. But from a capability standpoint, they're lethal on the water. You can't slip up.
I mean, some of the weights this past season were just like when you guys went up on the North Swing, it was like, holy, I mean, it was amazing. I mean, just every single day what was brought in and how much it took to make the cut. Zach and I are texting back and forth, and it's just like, it's unreal.
Yeah, it blew my mind in a lot of them. You go and you're like, oh, I think it'd be 18 pounds to make the cut, right? Like 18 pounds of smallmouth a day. That's pretty stout. Next thing you know, it's like nearly 20 pounds. Yeah. It was getting to the point where it's like, whatever you think it's going to be, add 2 pounds. Because and it's not going to fall off. Like, if anything, the weights are going to go up on day 2.
Yeah, I think, and like Scott Martin's series, you kind of watch it and you kind of look at his FLW days when he was doing that, and they always planned on the weights dropping. And then when he comes over to the Elite series, he's kind of got that same idea in his head. And you see it, and now looking after a couple of years, it's like they don't drop, they go up. And seeing him start to realize that this is like a whole new game is just it's really telling of just how good these guys are.
Yeah, that was always the joke, is that FLW was double minus a pound and the Elites was double add a pound. to calculate, you'd double day one's weight and then add a pound in the Elites, and that would be about what your cut weight would be. And you'd always joke around like FLWB, which is no longer anymore, but I think it's the Tackle Warehouse Invitationals. That it would always be like double minus a pound. I don't know if that still holds true or not, but that was always the joke when it was the FLW tour.
That is funny. Yeah, it just seems as as you guys kind of get things nailed down, and you start following them, and you know where they're going, and kind of get a sixth sense about things, and the weights just the way they get stronger is crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, talking about the teaching these kids, I mean, we had Jason Seelock on from Wired to Fish a few podcasts ago. They have literally probably got a tip on that website for every day of the week for 365 days a year. So, I mean, a video now. So you can either read it or it's a video now. It's incredible what just that one publication and you guys all working together have put out.
Yeah, Wired to Fish is a perfect example of that. I mean, you're not just getting random information. You're getting some of like the best of the best information that there is possible out there. Guys that have spent thousands and thousands of hours on the water, and then it's like, here it is in a 15-minute masterclass for free.
Yeah.
You might have to watch an ad, but here it is for free.
Yeah, I mean,
we asked Jason this question. We'll ask you too. Like, when a new technique comes out, how long do you spend like trying to learn it? Like, what's that process look like when something's fresh and new, or an idea is new? Let's put it that way.
I'm the type of guy that I won't just jump on every technique. If I don't feel like it fits into, I guess, kind of like my style of fishing, then I just won't do it. Like a Ned rig's a perfect example. I know people have caught thousands, hundreds of thousands of bass on a Ned rig, and I'll throw it every once in a while. But it's like I have to quit throwing something else to throw that. And I still have enough confidence in a drop shot or something else that I don't feel like I have to get rid of something else to replace it with a Ned rig. Even though I know there are times where it'll probably outfish certain techniques, I still have enough confidence in kind of my core base of techniques that I don't feel like I need to add that one into it. But and it's different now at this stage of my career versus when I first started, because I hadn't seen all of the things. Like one of my biggest weaknesses was deep crankbaits. We just didn't have places where our fish got on offshore ledges and would school up in these great big giant schools. And, you could catch them on a big crankbait or a big spoon. We just didn't have that stuff. A lot of my top 10s have come from those types of tournaments now, right? Whether it's on the Tennessee River or Lake Fork or Toledo, like those types of fisheries have turned into some of my favorite places to fish and some of my favorite ways to fish. But I had to learn that. The first tournament I won was on a deep crankbait, but I didn't really know anything about deep cranking. But I had spent, like what a lot of people don't know, is I spent a week and a half before that on Douglas Lake, actually, because we had an elite coming up there later in the year. I went there and I spent a week and a half deep cranking and throwing spoons. And I didn't expect to go to Bull Shoals and do that, but I had gained so much confidence in it the week and a half before that when I got there and then the conditions lined up for it, I was like, perfect. I just did this all last week and crushed them. I just pulled the same rod out with the same baits and just go to work. And then you build that confidence and you build it a little bit more and then that just becomes one of your core techniques, I guess.
Well, and having confidence in a technique or a specific bait and knowing the intricacies of that, to me, even on a day when maybe that technique isn't perfect, is going to be more deadly for you than going to something that may be a better suited technique, but you just are not nearly as familiar with it, right?
Yeah, I mean that the old saying, like confidence is the number one lure in your tackle box. That's actually a real thing. As cheesy and cliche as it sounds, it's actually a real thing because you can have two guys throwing the exact same bait, same weight, everything, throwing at the same spot, and one guy will outfish the other one. Same color, everything. But the guy that's out fishing the other one may be more familiar, more comfortable with the technique, and he's in the moment, right? He's paying attention every turn of the reel handle, and that makes a big difference, right? If you have if confidence in a bait, like you're like, I know if he's down there, he's going to bite it, and that's where you want to get. And I feel like the last 3 or 4 years, that's been my biggest strength, is just looking at a place or a condition and saying, I'm going to throw this. If I don't get a bite on it, because there's not a bass there. And then you just move on, right? Versus pulling up to a tree and you're like, I need to throw 15 or 16 different things to see if there's a tree in it or a bass in that tree. Right. I'll roll up to that tree and be like, okay, I'm going to throw a spinnerbait down this tree. Didn't bite it. Okay, I'm going to flip here. Okay, there's no bass here. Move on. And that process gets you moving and finding active fish much quicker versus, saying like looking at it and thinking, oh, I need to figure out what the secret bait is. Because a lot of times there's not a secret bait. It's more or less getting in the right areas and applying the right techniques or the right style of bait to those conditions.
About secret areas, there's enough people fishing now. Do you feel like there are still secret areas?
There's a few, but there's definitely a lot less. There's a lot less. I mean, I used to have a lot on Lake Ontario, and there's not many. There's a few where like this year, there's one area that I've never seen a boat, and I didn't make the cut this year, and I was angry, and I'm watching Bass Live, and it's just making me more angry. And they turn the camera on Taku, and I look, and I look at Kyle. He's sitting next to me on the couch. I'm like, is that the same buoy we just fished around all day yesterday? He's like,
Oh my.
He's like, I think it is. And he pulls up some of the footage that he has on his camera. And I'm like, yep, same buoy. And so I talked to Taku later. He's like, oh, yeah, 105 pounder everywhere, 5 pounder. I'm like, jeez.
Disneyland.
Which I caught 22 pounds there. I mean, I had a big bag the second day, but I just couldn't dig myself out of my day one hole. But I had never seen a boat there, and he had left, and I had showed up after he had left on day 2 and didn't know he was fishing around there. Never saw a boat within sight. You know, it was glass calm, and I never saw another bass boat. And here Taku is over there just putting a beat down on him.
He's been a fun one to watch. For sure. He's just funny to watch. I mean, it's not that he's funny, it's just he's fun. I mean, this whole smallmouth Disneyland thing was epic. It was good. It was good TV.
Yeah.
So we've got a few questions from people that are chiming in here. I'm going to twist this question a little bit. Number one, who came up with cut ice cream? And now that cut ice cream is a well-known thing and it's been out for a while, where is the best place to get said ice cream?
That was it was kind of my doings, I guess. I'm going to say it was a team decision. This is how it happened. Tiff and Kyle have a really bad sweet tooth. And so they would make sure there was ice cream in the camper every single night. You know, it'd be like in the freezer, which means you have to have less elk meat in the freezer to fit room for ice cream in the freezer.
Right. Yeah.
I'm the kind of guy where I'm like, if it's not there, I don't need it. I'm fine with sweet stuff. But they're like, we got to have it. But if it's there, I'm usually going to eat it. And I'm like, all right, guys, we have to stop this because like I can't be eating a bowl of ice cream. And even if it's like at the camp or whatever, I'll get this little small bowl, you know, and then they get a big giant bowl. I was like, all right, enough. We're not doing this every single night. So I was like, if I make the cut, then we can go get ice cream. And that's how it came about. So it became cut ice cream because I have to make the cut, then we'll go get ice cream. It started out as a joke, and then it just kind of became like a thing, a tradition. And then some years we eat a lot more ice cream than others. And, you know, and then we made a t-shirt with it and a logo and some hats. And next thing you know, people are posting like, we got our cut ice cream when a guy wins a tournament or he makes a cut on a multi-day deal. And that's kind of how it came about. Normally the go-to is Dairy Queen because they're in like every small town in America. And so that's what's readily available most of the time. We prefer like local places. So we'll always try to find a local joint if there is one around that's convenient. And then, I mean, sometimes it ends up being gas stations and we go in the little like freezer bin and open up and grab a Snickers ice cream or something. So it's varied. One classic in Dallas, we went to one of those like nitro ice cream places or whatever, where they make it right in front of you.
Oh yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
It was so good. It's expensive, but it's really good.
I've yet
Sometimes
to
the good stuff's worth it.
Yeah.
All right. Next audience question. And this is kind of like, man, you've won it, and you've probably been asked this before. But the kayakers are out tonight because we have some kayak patrons, a little sponsorship back there. You've won at almost every level of bass except the kayak thing.
Yeah.
When are you going to take the OT out and try to get that win in the kayak division?
I mean, I would like to. It's probably going to be a little while because we actually just got a different camper, so I don't have my toy hauler anymore. Packing 13-foot kayaks around with
Yeah, it's
two kids
much.
under 2 is just a lot. It takes up a lot of space.
Yeah.
And so do cribs and toys.
Oh yes,
and all the other
Strollers.
things that come with little baby chitlins. And so it might be a while. The hardest part is lining it up. I was going to fish one last year and was planning on going to the Caddo Bistino tournament. I think might have been a Hobie series that I was going to go do there.
Yeah, it was.
And then something came up where I ended up not being able to go. Oh, it was my boat. When my boat got smashed at the Classic, and then I had to deal with figuring out what I was going to do with that boat, how I was going to get another boat before the next tournament. I was like, Tiff, I don't think we can drive all the way to Louisiana and back and get this next boat rigged and ready for the next tournament. I was like, we're just going to have to not go. So now it might be a while, but I would love to do it because I enjoy the kayak thing, and I never got mine. I never rigged them out and put graphs and everything on them. I used them as just like old school, look at the water, figure out how to catch a bass, go out there and do it. And that was super enjoyable to me. But if I fished a tournament, there's no way I'm going out there competing for money and not being like, oh, I'm going to put a Solix right here. I'm going to have some Mega 360. I'm going to deck it out. So I'm at least on par with everyone else.
You can't let Ike be the only one that has that claim to fame.
I know.
You're going to have to step in there and take it from him.
I know.
I almost started this podcast by yelling folks at home, but I didn't.
Wow. It's probably catchphrase too, like Prodigy. We owe Mercer $20 now, or now you owe Ike and Ellie $5.
Yeah.
But so what would really be cool is, Kyle's out there with you guys. What if you entered Kyle in a kayak tournament? That would be maybe that would be his claim.
Upon all of my kayak friends. He did fish as a co-angler in the opens. He fished a couple of those, which was quite entertaining. But in 2020, I needed someone to link up with me, and he linked up on a couple of them, and that was something else. It was a mess.
I can imagine.
But a kayak one would be great, and I would definitely pay somebody. Chad, I'll offer it to you. I mean, if you're fishing against him, I will pay good money for someone just to accidentally tip his kayak over.
There's 2 Sony cameras right there. If you get him this way, I will personally go film. I will be Kyle's Kyle for the day and film the entire episode. I'll even supply the boat. We have no shortage. Send him on. Send him to Indiana for a weekend. It'll be great.
Hop in the Jackson and see what you can do.
Just see what you can do. We'll put him out there. I make no promises, but yeah, if it comes towards the end of the day and he's not doing very good, I may give him a nudge. And just be like, well, I was paid to do this, and just roll on.
It's just business, Kyle. It's just business.
Talking about Kyle, the series has been something that has been awesome to watch evolve. How much of your style goes into Kyle's edits? Like you you enjoy taking pictures and you're not a slouch in that department yourself. Like, how much input do you have when he edits a video, like as far as the layout, the look, the color? I mean, at first, did you have, and has he, and how much of it's Kyle? I guess is the best question.
I would say it's nearly all him, honestly. We talk about it through all of our conversations and stuff of like the look, and we'll try different things and stuff, and we'll talk about those things. But I don't sit down and like go through the edits with him and like, oh, you should do this or you should do that. Sometimes even when we premiere them, and this has gotten us in trouble, but like, we'll premiere them and I haven't even seen them until the actual premiere. Now, like, and one time he accidentally turned the volume off of one of the edit layers in Premiere. And so the whole like first quarter of the video had no music for the premiere. We ended up taking it down after the premiere and then loading the right one on.
I think I remember that.
The whole first part of it, we're just texting each other like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. People still loved it because they didn't know, but we both knew like this is really weird.
Yeah.
And so I've tried to at least do that. But honestly, when he first came on in 2018, he had never been in a bass boat. He had never filmed any fishing content or any of that. He grew up doing some fishing with his dad and stuff, but no tournaments. He didn't know anything about it. Didn't know the structure. Didn't know what a blast off was. None of that. And I just, threw him out there. Was like, hey, here's your camera boat driver. Gave him a quick rundown of like what we're going to do for the day. It's like, hold on and film. I didn't give him a ton of direction because I wanted to see what he could do through his lens, right? Like I looked at his lack of knowledge of it as a positive because I wanted him to be able to film it in a way that he understood it, because I knew then that people that had never seen a tournament or never been to one or followed one or fished one would be able to understand it, because he would be able to film it in a similar way or edit it in a similar way that they would be able to understand it. So if I could get him to understand it, other people that hadn't been in the sport would understand it, and that might bring more people into the sport. And he crushed the first one, and I've never went through and been like, you should do this or you should do that. I just let him run with it. And we'll try different things and try some different music. And he's just continually gotten better and better and better and better.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think that was the best approach you could have taken. I mean, when you guys started that, it was something completely new content-wise in the space, and that's what I think Chad and I enjoyed so much about it. Was more cinematic. It
felt younger.
I don't know. It did. Yeah. It felt a lot younger because we're all used to the old TV shows, and just kind of it's the same with bow hunting TV, right? It's just kind of always been filmed in a very methodical, we're doing interviews back in the studio at the house and, telling the story, and you guys just went about it kind of combining cinematic with vlog style and stuff like that. And it brought it up to date and it was entertaining.
Not that there's anything wrong with Bill Dance's show. It's still got a...
No, it's incredible. That style of music you look at my Spotify Wrapped or whatever they're called, like 95% of it's going to be country because I listen to country more than anything.
Right.
But we never put country on one of our series videos. Even though that's what both of us listen to more than anything. Yeah. I wanted to bring a different style. So thank you for noticing that. I want to bring that different style to the sport. That was kind of always one of my things. And I enjoyed the filming aspect of it, but I knew there was things that I couldn't capture just with having a GoPro strap to the back of the boat or to the console. I wanted to give a different look and give that kind of third person perspective. that he's been able to provide. He says he's coming back again next year, so that's a good thing. I guess we'll be doing it again.
Do you feel like the YouTube series has been like such a good investment of not only your time, but I mean, it's also, I mean, Kyle doesn't work for free, obviously.
Oh no, financially it cost me a lot of money.
And food, and just to feed Kyle.
Food, ice cream, snacks, all those things.
But you got to invest in yourself at some point.
Yeah, and that's what I did. I just gambled. I had thought about it for years and years before I actually got comfortable to where I was willing to kind of pull the plug on it and do it. And then that first year we did, I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. And then and I actually had a different guy film for me the first year, and then he ended up going a different direction. 2 weeks before the first tournament, I called Kyle, and he's like, yeah, I'll do it. and then he's been with us ever since 2018. And so I feel like from a monetary standpoint, it hasn't been a direct correlation of like, we film this and this is what we get from it. But from a brand building standpoint, and kind of staying ahead of the curve and really building like a core fan base, it's been huge. Because very rarely does someone come up to me at a trade show or even an elite tournament and they're like, man, I love watching you on Bass Live, or I love watching you on the television show or something. It's always, man, I love your YouTube series. Man, we love watching your YouTube series. Right. And that's when it really started to set in, where I was like, man, I don't care if I'm not necessarily losing money, because I just don't have anyone directly paying for it. Right. We don't have anyone sponsoring it. Go RVing sponsored it for a couple years, and then they went another direction, and like that was great. But I was like, I can't stop doing it because I don't have a sponsor for it. Like I have to keep doing this because I saw the benefits of it from that fan base, and I think now the approach to it is like, I have this giant catalog of most of my career now.
Yeah.
Nearly half of my career has been filmed. Both years I won Angler of the Year have been filmed. I mean, almost everything outside of the literal birth of my first child was filmed. Like trying to get to the hospital and like all of that crazy stuff. Like, driving 28 hours straight with Kyle, like filming that and all of that process. Like, we have that footage that you can't put a monetary value on.
No,
absolutely not. That's awesome.
No, it costs very little to hit that record button.
Yeah. Well, tell my bank account that.
In terms of just recording the actual footage.
Zach, are you saying you're cheap? No,
I know what my camera gear costs.
Yeah, for sure. I was gonna say, but no, man, it has been very awesome to watch the channel, and you guys do it in a way, and Scott Martin does it in a way too, where you guys have, not only is it about you or Scott, you guys also have brought in your friends like Kyle, your wife Tiffany, and they are also characters on your show or video. And I think that also Carl even is now. I mean, it adds a lot of dynamic to what people see. I think that makes it so well rounded. I mean, you get the fishing, but then you've also kind of got like a backstory with you guys, and it just really brings it all together.
Yeah, the fishing that's just a part of our life,
right?
And it's showing all of that other stuff is what makes us relatable. I mean,
yeah.
Me and Kyle get together and we can be serious, but we also have the sense of humor of a 13-year-old boy. And sometimes that gets us in trouble, but like we laugh really hard. Like there's lots of times in the camper that, and Tiff's not completely innocent. Sometimes she has a sense of humor of a 13-year-old boy too. It's the only way it works.
Right.
But there's plenty of times that we are all three dying, laughing in tears over some of the dumbest stuff. But like that I don't know, I guess like that camaraderie is part of it, right? The fishing is part of it. The other anglers, like we want to bring all of that and do it in a realistic light, but through a positive lens.
Good answer. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, covering, like you said, the fishing's a part of it, but just the general circus that can be, I'm sure, living in the camper on the road with everyone all
It is.
together. I always love too when he goes to somebody on the dock pre-launch for the morning words of wisdom and James Overstreet's face pops up on camera.
Oh yeah.
Because you never know what's coming out of his mouth.
No,
sure.
and that's for me been one of the coolest things to see is the connection that everybody else has with him also.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, when he goes to the tournaments, everyone there knows who he is, all the bass staff, the anglers, like he's just part of that traveling circus crew.
Right.
And so he just walks around like he owns the place and everyone is giving him a hard time and talking smack to him. And that is really cool, right? Because it makes that whole experience better. He's not just a statue holding a camera.
Yeah. He's probably been around those events longer than some of the folks that are still working the events.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, let's see, 18, 19. Yeah, he's going into his 7th year. It's just crazy. So he's filmed nearly, he's filmed over 60 events.
Wow.
Has he asked for the A9 yet?
Yeah, the A9 is so trash. I shouldn't say it's so trash because I kind of want to sell it, but that thing has seen some better days.
Has he asked for the new one though?
Oh, the new A9, no.
Yeah.
He buys his own camera equipment. He's a contractor. He's an independent contractor. He can buy his own
we understand that.
But he does like he has a you said you have Sony, so you're familiar with this.
Oh yeah.
He had the Gen 1 70 to 200, 2.8.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
And then I bought the Gen 2 version, which is crisper and sharper and it's lighter. And he'd be like, "Hey, can I borrow your 70 to 200?" Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
And then he trashed his 24 to 70. So he got welding sparks or something on the lens. So it's got all these little dots on it. And like, "Hey,
oh no,
can I use that?" Yeah, sure. But it goes both ways. This is actually his lens that I've been holding hostage. This is our newest one.
Is that the 2 to 6?
Yeah. The thing's beast. It is so good for filming on the water and hunting stuff. Like he didn't do anything with me this year, but that's a good one for that.
Yeah, for sure. It's on my list.
Yeah. And honestly, for what it is, it's not that expensive because it's not a G Master.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still reasonable.
Yeah. Yeah. If it was a G Master, it'd be 10 grand.
Yeah, it'd be like the 600. The 600 Prime. That thing's ridiculous.
Oh man.
We have actually dabbled with some of the Zach has got one of the newer Tamron lenses, and I've got a super zoom Tamron that I take out on the water so I don't take my Sonys out in the kayak. my prime lenses, but the Tamron set 28 to 200, it fills a lot of gap, especially, for kayak fishing. I think it does
Mhm.
pretty good. But yeah, Tamron stuff ain't bad either. The price is
Well,
decent.
I drooled over the 70 to 200 G Master
Oh,
forever,
for sure.
and
Still
and
drooling.
couldn't talk myself into it. And then Tamron went and came out with a 35 to 150 f2 to
Commitment
2.8,
issues.
and I was like, that's cheaper and fills a wider focal length.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, it's awesome in the tree stand because I can, a wide angle, and I can still, talk to camera. And then I got a longer focal length to zoom in with, and the depth of field's great. It's just
Stupid crispy too.
it's crispy. It gives good compression. It's not heavy. It's
Yeah.
actually it's light enough. It doesn't have a tripod foot on it like the 70 to 200 does.
And I'm
Yeah, it's
quoting this from the B&H website. When you go to look at the reviews of that specific lens, it says God's lens.
it's I try not to talk about it very often because I feel like it's a very well kept secret how good that lens is.
No,
No,
it's not if you get on B&H.
that's a real thing because I went before they came out with the Gen 2 version of that 70 to 200 2.8.
Mm-hmm.
That when I did a lot of the research, like those Tamron lenses and stuff, those were sharper lenses than what the original 70 to 200 was. Everyone's like,
Yeah.
they're lighter, they're sharper. Don't spend the extra money to get that.
Yeah.
And then they came out with the Gen 2 version, and then I went down another rabbit hole of comparing that to everything else.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
Now, I will say the big benefit you have with that over that Tamron is mine's an external zoom where yours is an internal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is that negative, but I get
For
over
sure. See, the three of us have jumped down a third rabbit hole of the night talking about cameras.
it. Well,
Look at us go.
when you start talking about normal guy stuff, I forget we're on a podcast and we'll just have a normal conversation.
Yeah. Everybody's like, why do they have Brandon Palaniuk on and they're talking about what's 2.8?
Some people get it.
Yeah.
Some people get it. But it is fun. I mean, it's a hobby within the hobby a lot of times. And it kind of, when you get to do those kind of things, I think it just adds another element of fun to being out there on the water or being in the stands and doing the different things with the camera. I mean, it's still your passion for the sport, but it's just another way to have fun with it.
Yeah. And the biggest thing I've learned is that if you're self-filming, it's one thing. If you're doing it with another person, who that person is so important. Like to build a good product, a good video.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be somebody that you're willing to spend a lot of time with, and someone
look like an idiot in front of sometimes.
Yeah, like that's someone that you have to be on the same wavelength with.
Yeah,
very much.
I don't know if you guys can hear my little kid chatting up a storm. She's going, hi. She's waving at me through the glass.
Love it. No, yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm just flipping through the audience questions. Ask away.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I mean, it just goes back to capturing all the moments and memories and the adventure and having all that, whether you post it or not, just to go back and have it to look back on in the future. I mean, I've killed 3 animals so far this year, and all 3 of them, 2 of them have been self-filmed, and we did have 2 angles on the cow in Colorado, and hopefully I'll get one more doe on camera and remember to turn my GoPro on for my second angle this time. But it adds a different element, that's for sure. It's a challenge, but it makes it all that much more fun too.
Yeah, and being able to look, the biggest thing is you never know when something wild, like some crazy moment in time, is going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes having that is, you look back on it, you're like, wow, I can't believe we just got that. And then most of the time you don't. there's actually more times when you're like, gosh, if I just had a camera running,
if I'd been recording.
if I would have been recording, that would have been awesome.
We were recording years ago, and I almost took an arrow in the arm, but we won't go down that rabbit hole.
It was an accident. You didn't take it in the arm, and you didn't. It didn't
I
hit
said
your head.
almost.
It hit no part of your body, but yes, it was a serious accident. It would have been could have been, and probably should have been a very serious accident. But that was my fault. Once again. I had him go down an archery lane. We were shooting indoor, and he should have known better.
I trusted you.
That was your first mistake. But I had a back tension release, and we were shooting spots in an indoor archery range, and I'm at full draw. And well, he's like setting up the camera, and I'm up here at full draw for like what feels like a half an hour. And all of a sudden, the back tension release just decides that it's going to go off. And he was down there.
My reaction time was good.
It was very good. Nobody or no cameras were injured, and it was probably one of our dumber moments in life.
Yeah, you're like, okay, we're not going to do that again.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. No, that was all I needed.
Yeah.
Range is hot. My butt's behind you from now on.
Yeah, for sure.
You're going to hang over bridges sometimes and take photos. It just happens. It's just what you do. You don't think about it. You just do it. Well, Brandon, we've had you for like an hour and 15 minutes, and I know you've got other stuff to do besides sit here and go down these rabbit holes with us, which would be fun. But man, we're going to let you thank the people that you need to thank and tell the folks where to learn more about BMP fishing on the interwebs.
Yeah. Really just thank you everyone that's tuned in, listen, ask some questions. Appreciate all of you. Appreciate both of you guys for having me on. Me and Zach talk a bunch online, mostly hunting stuff more than fishing stuff, actually. But
I figure you get to talk fishing all the time. So.
Yeah, we're running through arrow setups and all kinds of stuff, and we were going through a bunch of that this fall, and it's been awesome to connect with you guys. Glad we were able to finally hop on and do this podcast, which has been great. Anyone that doesn't already follow along can follow along. Pretty much all the social channels are just my name, Brandon Palaniuk. If you can't spell my last name, you can just go to bmpfishing.com and find a link to all those there. And then YouTube is just BMP Fishing as well. So that's where we film all the stuff. If you're not familiar with it, haven't seen it, but heard us talking about it, you can go there and watch all the shenanigans go down.
New video drops tomorrow, right?
Yeah, I'm going to drop a new one tomorrow.
Plenty of hours of entertainment.
Yeah, that one's good. There's a lot of heartbreak on day one, and a lot of triumph on day two. Should be quite interesting. Again,
it's
one that I have not watched the entire edit.
It's a cinematic revelation about fishing where love and passion come together to tell a story. Check it out tomorrow.
Chad, are you hired for voiceovers? That was beautiful. That was eloquent.
Just write the copy in the description.
Yeah, we'll tell you about that later. All right. Well, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys 2 weeks on the next one. Peace.